Okay, first things first. If you're watching this at home, I highly recommend you put it up on a big screen because that's going to be important later. This is probably like my 8th or 9th take of this voiceover because I'm trying to figure out where do I start. What do I want to say about my story with Porsche? Because there's a lot of things that I think will resonate with a lot of people. So I've decided to target this video for a kid who's looking for his or her first car, whatever car that might be. And if people are telling you that you can't do it, or it's not practical, or you know whatever it is, whatever you're aspiring to achieve, if people are telling you that you can't or shouldn't pursue that goal, my goal is for this video to help encourage you to move forward with that decision, because that's the overall theme of Porsche with me. This car, when I was first looking, after I finally convinced my parents, the ad for this car popped up, and 2 days later it was gone. And I was completely heartbroken. So to my surprise, several months later, the same exact ad, the same exact car pops up. I finally had the green light. The first person to look at that ad. The ad was 2 minutes old, and I immediately, right away, contacted the sellers, and everything just kind of transpired from there. This car was owned by one family since October of 1982 and stayed within that family up until I purchased it in 2015. At that point, my mechanical knowledge spanned changing a tire, and I had done one oil change. So over the next preceding 5 years, I learned everything that you could learn about cars from this one. Every single component or system I had touched. Electrical system, ignition, fuel, suspension, brakes, everything. Interior, all of it. And it was the most frustrating journey at times, but it was also the most rewarding because I was the one that was doing the work. I always accredit that car to giving me an engineering degree because it was like a professor. I learned fluid mechanics from it. I learned physics, all sorts of stuff that nobody really thinks that you need to know when you're working on cars. I learned. And I also learned driving dynamics. I wouldn't say performance driving, but definitely defensive driving. I avoided several accidents in that car. People nosing out in front of me because it's such a well-balanced car. I could lock up and be able to drift around someone's nose after they pull out in front of me. Or, if an animal runs out in the road, that happened to me a couple times. The car is just so well balanced and so intuitive that you just become one with it. And aside from just learning mechanical things and budgeting and all sorts of good skill sets, I also grew up with that car. It got me through a pretty emotionally difficult time. I mean, what teenager at some point doesn't really have like something that they have to deal with? But that car for me was just my outlet. If something was broken on it, working on it, fixing it was my outlet to get away from other things that might have been stressing me out. It was a way to just kind of turn the rest of life off and focus on one thing that at least I knew I was in control of. And the same goes for driving. That car just was always there. Whenever I needed to get out, whenever I needed to turn life off, whenever I needed to just think and analyze my thoughts and flesh things out, I could just get in, turn the key, go for a drive, and just, shut my brain off, but in the best way possible. And I developed such a sense of confidence with that car and such a sense of pride, not only in ownership, but just the, pride in the community of all the people I was meeting and all the stuff I was able to do. And now I could do stuff on other people's cars. And I was learning so much that it made all the difficult things about owning a classic car worth it. And of course, I didn't do that alone. I had support from my parents for when this car was down. I had another car to use. I lived close enough to school I could walk to it if my car was down. There were circumstances that were available to me that might not be available for everybody else, and I recognize that. But at the same time, because of the skill sets that I learned from this car, I'm able to carry that forward in a way that I never would have been able to without such a visceral experience. And I'm forever grateful for that car for teaching me about everything. It's such a strange thing about cars, where it's not just something to get you from A to B. It really is passion. So when that car got hit, I felt like an entire piece of myself was destroyed, because everything that I had learned, all the work I had put into it, all the times that I felt like I needed to reset or to refocus or to just get a break, the thing that I could count on to do that for me was taken away from me in about 30 seconds. And I'll be honest with you, it was devastating, because not only do you have, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 hours of restoration time, and, you met all these people, you're part of the Porsche club, you're part of the Porsche experience that now you don't feel like you're going to be a part of because you don't have a car to take to events. You don't, what do you do? And on top of that, I had a sense of immense guilt, because there was no way that I was going to be able to afford another one. At this time, prices had gone up immensely. But the guilt aspect of it was this car had survived, 40 years of life. And under my ownership, it's death. And even though this accident wasn't my fault, there's always that sense of guilt to the original owners of this car, to that family, that, I'm sorry that this is how that car's story ended. But ultimately, it's up to me, and it's my responsibility to make sure that this isn't the end of that car, that's not the ending chapter. Because the experiences that I gained from owning this as my first car, the confidence I had earned about proving people wrong, but also just when people say that something's not practical, or that you shouldn't do it, or that there's a certain way that you live your life, ultimately when you just decide, no, I'm not going to do that, I don't have to do what you think is right, I'm just going to do what makes me happy, that's something that is intangible that you get from owning these cars. And I feel like that's why everyone from such a young age sets a goal out and is so passionate, not only about, the automotive sense of things and driving and what wonderful cars they are to drive, but it's really that type of thing that you are instilled in as a kid, where you go, someday I am going to make this dream a reality. Doesn't matter what aspect of life it is. The photos that you're seeing here are from a 2018 Chevy Silverado extended cab with a cattle guard on it. He rear-ended me at an intersection while speeding in a one-lane downtown chunk of road that left me with train tracks on my left and a brick wall and parking lot with people and cars on my right, and an old man and 3 other cars in front of that old man directly ahead of me. The balance and driving dynamics of this car are so good that in the midst of that collision, I was able to throw the car hard left, maintain control the entire time. Thankfully, there wasn't a train coming because I had to go onto that curb, and I was able to avoid everyone in front of me. And so even in its final moments, that car took care of me and had my back. And it was devastating to lose that. And I felt it important to include these pictures, not only to explain what happened and why emotionally this was so tough for me, but so that you can all see literally how safe these cars are and what it is about these cars that makes them so special. No, they're not fast, but they will save your ass when you need it to. The impact was so hard it broke the driver's seat. It, as you saw earlier, completely destroyed the rear glass. It disintegrated it. It ripped the gauges out of the dash panel. It it severed my brakes. I had no brakes after that. It cut into the chassis itself. It buckled the roof structure. It obviously bent both rear frame rails. And as you'll see in a second here, it cut into the steel, not only of the body, but of the license plate. It completely slaughtered that car. And as heavy and as hard as an impact as that was, I was able to walk out relatively unscathed. I was still hurt, and there's still issues that I'm probably going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. But I'm up and I'm walking, and I don't know. I don't know that in a lesser car that would have been the case.
It's actually because this car was so damn good that he's able to walk away from it.
Right, yeah, they built it so well. Okay.
So immediately at this point, due to the market conditions, due to the rare circumstances that I had purchased this car in the first place, I believed that my story with Porsche was done. Because I didn't think I was going to be able to afford another one. At this point, I was in between college and trying to figure that out and trying to figure out what my next steps as a career were going to be. So I wasn't working. My savings were in the car because I needed to, financially I wasn't worried about an investment perspective or the value of the car because I had no intentions of selling it. I didn't view it as a financial asset or as a collector car because at the time, again, nobody had really treated them like that. But this was now a point where COVID prices were hitting and people were finally starting to show these cars love, which was great. But they also were, with prices rising, I could not see it happening. And I was being told constantly from the insurance company that I was being given numbers that didn't make sense, and I was being told that all the work that I had put into that car was basically wasted because it wasn't going to amount for anything monetarily. So I had this huge negative in my life, but the way that Porsche just is intertwined with who I am, I get a person who reaches out to me and sees a video that I publish, and it turns out to be someone who's owned a car that I instantly fell in love with a year prior. And he recognizes the passion that I have, and he shares that passion with his car, and it's abundantly clear that when he allows me the opportunity to purchase his 944, there's absolutely no way that I can say no to it. Because in the same just by chance circumstance that the opportunity was presented for me to purchase the first car, I just can't explain it, but he provides me the opportunity to buy this car. And so my story with Porsche continues with this car, but it's able to not just be my own story, it's hopefully a way that I can use this channel to share everything that I've learned over the last almost decade between owning both of these cars with you guys. So that if you're a kid that's thinking about buying a 944 as your first car, use this video to show your parents why you should get it. Because first and foremost, no matter what, it's going to protect you. It's going to save your life. It's going to teach you how to value what you own. It's going to give you the opportunity to have a sense of pride in what you own. You're also going to be joining a community that just does not exist with other car brands. It doesn't. There's no other community that I've seen where no matter how huge someone's bank account is, they're open, they're inviting, they're excited by younger people, younger generations getting into these cars. Doesn't matter if you're a boy, girl, doesn't matter if you're 17 or if you're 87. It's just pure passion across the board. And the 944 to me, even though initially a redheaded stepchild, an outcast, much to like how I was when I first bought mine, is now a welcome part of a larger community. And I have no idea what the future chapters of Porsche ownership are going to look like for me, but I know that this car is going to be a part of it. So that's my story with Porsche. And it might be kind of funny, but I didn't really talk about driving because I don't know how to explain it. But I still struggle with driving. I still have a lot of anxiety with driving. I've tried to apply a lot of the, methods of psychology, of, flight training and all that sort of stuff. I've tried to do my best to apply that to driving. But I'm so anxious that someone is going to hit this car that it still is a struggle for me to enjoy it. But I am motivated by the reasons that were presented for me to buy this car, to not take that for granted and to drive it as much as possible and to enjoy it as much as possible and to share my experience as much as possible so that, if I do something on my car and that helps you out, that's awesome. And if somebody is doing something on their car that might help me out, if I can share their experience and their information and their knowledge and share that with all of you guys and show you that you can truly daily drive this car as long as you take care of it and as long as you put in the time and the effort, it's all going to be worth it, because not only is the driving experience rewarding, but the community that you're going to be involved is unmatched. The level of support that I got after that horrible accident was just beyond me. And I'm so thankful to all of you for it. My immediate family, of course, my friends. And I don't know, sometimes you just have to do what you want to do that makes you happy. And people might tell you that, well, that car is a money pit, you should get rid of it, or, you're too young to own one of these, or, why don't you wait till college, or why don't you do this? And I take that very personally with all aspects of my life, because just because someone else has done something a different way doesn't necessarily mean that I have to do it that way or that you have to do it that way. If you want a Porsche as your first car, then go get one as your first car. If you're, 40 years old and you've never had one, go get one. And it doesn't have to just be Porsche. My point here is just whatever it is that you're chasing, make it happen. Do it. Doesn't matter if people tell you that you can't or that you shouldn't. Just go do it. Prove everyone wrong, because in the end, you're probably going to find a lot of people who feel the same way and who are going to welcome you with open arms into whatever community it is. So, this is my story with Porsche. This is my passion, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that passion. And I think it's so awesome that people are really showing these cars the love and appreciation that they deserve, because it's not just about the cool factor. It really isn't just about the driving experience. It's not even just about showing up to Cars and Coffee on Saturday. When it boils down to it, no matter what, the 944 will always have your back. So, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. And if you're a younger person out there, guy, girl, whatever, if you're looking for your first car, I can't recommend the 944 enough. Because even though it's going to be difficult, and even though it's going to be a challenge, that's what you should be doing in your life. You should be challenging yourself, pushing yourself forward, and growing as a person. Don't ever stay stagnant. And if somebody ever tells you that you can't do something, don't listen to them. Do the opposite. I'm incredibly grateful for Mike for giving me the opportunity for buying this car. And I hope I've done it justice during my ownership to take care of it and to value the experience, to really make it my own, and to just keep going, you know? So that's all I got for now. Thank you guys so much for subscribing, for tuning in, for meeting me up at car events, Cars and Coffee, for those friends that I've made there. I hope to just continue to meet new people and share these experiences. And if I can take any lesson that's come from owning both of these cars now, it's just that whatever happens, you just got to keep pushing through it, because ultimately you'll find a solution. You know, with my 83, for the longest time, I had that no running issue, and it's like, well, just you know you're going to figure it out. Just keep going. That first car taught me how to critical think. You know, it taught me things that I probably had no business knowing. You know, fluid mechanics, physics, electronics, all sorts of stuff. And that's knowledge that I carry with me outside of working on cars. You know, once you have that sense of mechanical intuition, you can sort of just figure out how the world works. And for me, I learned that from owning 2 944s. So, to that first car, thank you for saving my life. Thanks for being such a great friend and companion. And to this car, I hope I get many, 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 many more years and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of more happy miles with it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.